Hey guys, it's Brooke. Welcome to Inside Renovation. We are so happy you are here. Do us a favor, if you haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes that we put out. Today, Pastor Kody and I, we are going to be talking about being under the influence. And I'm going to let you just take that where you want to take it and just keep listening to find out what we're talking about. All right, Pastor Kody. It's Easter month,
Let's
baby.
go!
I had to just bring it out like that because I feel like this is just like, it's like the Super Bowl for church.
That's right.
You know? And
Yeah.
so I know Easter month, there's lots that's going on with Renovation Church. So I first want to start there and tell us what's coming up because I know
it's crazy
it's huge.
that it's in March this year. I feel like it's so early.
Literally.
Has to do with the moon, if you didn't know, which I wish it just was a date every year that we could plan around. But Renovation Church, we're going to have 4 services, one on Saturday night at 5, 3 on Sunday morning at 8, 9:30, and 11. But that's not it. The whole weekend's going to be packed. So let me back up. Friday night for Good Friday, we're going to be having a worship night and a live recording of 2, maybe 3 original Renovation songs, like worship teams.
Yeah.
So that's going to be on Friday night, I think at 6.
Okay.
On Saturday, again, we have our service. And then on Sunday, we're bringing back the helicopter egg drop.
This is huge. This is going to be
like
awesome.
20 to 30,000 eggs from the helicopter. I don't remember all the drop times. It's basically kind of in between services, after the first, after the second, after the third.
Yeah.
But yeah, Easter, Renovation Church. It's at Gallatin High School. Mm-hmm. It's going to be awesome. This
is so funny because I know that you know this, but the reason we found Renovation Church was through an Easter ad when you guys did the helicopter drop.
Yes, let's go.
So my husband saw it and he was just like, we got to go there. And then he reached out to you. You guys hit it off. And then,
I forgot that was the thing.
Yeah. So this is kind of like our Renovation Church anniversary.
The helicopter egg drop has influence.
It does. And that's what we're talking about today.
That's right.
I feel like that when people nowadays, we were just talking about how, what is it? The question that kids get asked most is like what do you want to be when you grow up? And they say
an influencer.
That's what everybody wants to do right now. And I feel like that word influencer and being an influencer, there's so many different ways you could take that. You could say, okay, I'm viral on social media. I'm posting cute outfits and things like that. But when it comes to our relationship with God and, you know, being in church and really just being an influencer and influencing other people, I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. So what does being an influencer mean to you?
Yeah, well, one, I think you already are an influencer.
Yeah.
You're influencing somebody to the positive or to the negative, right? So you are an influencer. I know what everyone means with that. Like you said, it's social media. It's like having that platform that people follow. And so I do think that influence has to do with moving people towards something. Like you have influence to cause other people to act, whether it be good or bad. Having influence means you have people who are willing to follow your lead. Having influence goes into this idea that you're leading people. You are leading people somewhere, and you can do that through lots of different ways, whether it be through your words, whether it be through your actions. So I like the idea of being an influencer when it comes to the kingdom, when it comes to God, because I think, again, we all already are, but I think there's some like things about this I'd love to hit on today.
Yeah.
Is like, what does that practically look like? What does that mean? How do you influence people? Because, I mean, take Easter, for example. We'll talk about it at the end. Man, what a great opportunity you have to be a good influence on other people and influencing them towards Jesus. Then there's the flip side of that of being influenced by other people.
Right.
And we got to talk about that side too. So it's like the influencer and the influenced.
Yeah. Let's talk about the influencer part real quick. Let's talk about some of maybe the influencers in your life and the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, so one of the influencers that I follow and like to listen to is Theo Vaughn. You should probably not listen to him if you don't have a sense of humor. And, you know, he makes me laugh. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to talk like, it's not all like spiritual pastors.
Totally.
Of course, like an influencer in my life is somebody I've learned a lot from. Pastor Stephen Furtick at Elevation. I've had some opportunity to be around him, and that was always special, you know. But I look to people. I think for me, here's how you pick an influencer to follow, is when they are where you want to be. They're the person that you're trying to become, not as in like an idol. I'm not talking about some weird like groupie, okay? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, for me, I'm looking to men who are great fathers, husbands, leaders of people. And then I maybe think through my role in particular in the gifting God's given me as a communicator, a preacher. So I'm looking at people who communicate and preach what I would consider more effectively than me that I can learn from. So I think it's going, hey, here's who I want to be in 10 years. Here's where I want to be at. And I'm going to surround myself with the right people and follow the right people to learn from them.
Yeah. And you touched on this in one of the Red Flag series that we did.
Yeah.
And you kind of talked about those people to surround yourself with, those 5 friends that you need. And,
that's right.
You know, really meeting yourself with somebody who's in the same life, like place that you are. And then one that I loved was following someone or having someone in your circle that is where you're going. So that's like somebody who is a father of just a little phase ahead of you, but getting that and really preparing yourself mentally, physically, spiritually for some of the bumps in the road that you're going to go through and watching them handle them and go through that. And you can like look back and be like, hey, I learned something about this. Let me try to implement it in my life. Yeah.
And if you didn't listen to that sermon, what she's referencing is your 5 closest, you're the average of your 5 closest friends, right? And like your circle matters. You are being influenced and you can be an influencer. So for me, it's like the people I want influencing me, it's like, I wanted a spiritual father. So not just someone that's one phase ahead of me, but maybe somebody who's 2 or 3, who has done life really well and are in those like, I don't want to say that final stage. It sounds so morbid. Like my guy, Pastor Steve's got a lot of life left in that man. But you have somebody who's just done it well, who's finished well, right? Yeah. So for me, it's like, you need a spiritual father or mother in your life. Yeah. And then it's like, for me, it's like I got 2 guys that it's like, they got kids in high school and in college or older, and they're married and their kids love Jesus and they got grandchildren. And I'm like, that's what I want from my family. Then I got my right hand guys that are like, I got 3 kids, you got 3 kids. You know what I'm saying? Like we got them. Yeah. And then the influencer part is I also have someone I'm influencing intentionally that I'm pouring and investing in and teaching them the things that I've learned. Yeah. Right. And not that I'm perfect by any means. Yeah. But that I'm going, hey, I'm not going to keep all this stuff I'm learning to myself. I have a responsibility to raise up another generation of leaders as well. Absolutely. And that pattern should continue. So that's what I would recommend. Like, I think you need all those people in your life.
Yeah. And I want to encourage maybe somebody who's watching this or listening that if you don't have that circle of people yet, or maybe you only have one of the 4 or whatever it is, that's okay. Because when I was listening to you talk about this and I was just like, okay, that's that person in my life. Okay, that's not someone in my life yet. You know what I mean? And it's really just like kind of going through those and being like, well, now I can pray specifically for those people to reveal themselves to me and stuff like that. And really just kind of refining that little circle of people. And it's cool over the last couple of weeks to see God just being like, this person's already your friend. You should be hanging out with them more. And then I'm like, that's that person. That's that person. And so if you're listening or you're watching this and you don't have that yet, that's okay.
That's okay. It's okay. Now you maybe have a little bit of clarity of what you need.
Right.
And that's the whole point. It's like, man, there's different seasons in life that have to do with proximity. You may move somewhere and it's challenging. Like 2 of my really closest friends, they at one point I lived with or near them, right? College, different seasons in ministry. But then they moved away. So now it's like, oh, well, I can't be like, well, my best friends live out of town. It's like, no, I need to find and make a close friend here. That I can literally go to his house and hang out with if I need him to. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think that having boundaries is important. And I think the dark side of this is you got too many people in your circle.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You got too many people in your circle. And so sometimes you gotta clean house a little bit. Yeah. Doesn't mean you don't love people.
Right. And you can still be friends with them. You just don't have to.
We're friendly to all.
Right.
But we're friends with a few. Like we love everybody, but don't everybody get access at the same level.
Right.
And that's okay. Jesus did that. Mm-hmm. Jesus had 72. He had 12, and then he had 3.
Right.
Peter, James, and John had a different level of access to Jesus than the rest than my boy Bartholomew. Like Bart didn't get the same access. You know what I'm saying? So anyway.
So let's talk about kind of being under the influence of certain people and how that can affect your life, because I know we kind of touched on how
under the influence.
Being under the influence is a term that people might take the wrong way.
Right.
But when you're, with someone or you're following somebody or you're putting yourself in certain situations, you're under the influence of that other person.
Yeah. I like the terminology because even though it can be taken a different way, it kind of has the same effects.
100%.
Like under the influence, it clouds your judgment. like things get blurry.
Yeah.
You feel a little bit more confident to do things you may not normally do, say things you mean or maybe don't mean. Like you lower down a filter, which typically isn't always the best thing. You know what I'm saying?
No filter life is the best life. Okay?
That's right. But at times you got to know what to say, when to say, and how to say it.
Right.
And so I think when you get Paul says it like this in 1 Corinthians. He says, bad company corrupts good character.
Right.
And the idea of like being an influencer and being influenced, like you got to understand you do have influence with people. It doesn't mean you're only hanging around Christian people. Lord, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Like you need some people who don't know Jesus yet in your life, and you can be friends with them and love them. But you got to understand your closest relationships should be leading you in the right direction. Like they should be leading you to the place that their values align with your values. Because we talk about this in the marital context a lot of being unequally yoked, right? I think that same principle applies in when you're in close relationship with someone. It's really important that they're headed in the same direction, because the idea of like in a marital relationship or in a romantic relationship, if like, let's say one person's a believer and one person's not, or one person has these values and somebody else doesn't have these values, the idea of a yoke was like they would put this thing around an oxen's neck to steer and get more strength, more power, more speed, more direction between two oxen to pull. And the idea is that would keep them in alignment going in the same direction. But if you had an ox that was stronger than the other one, they would never go in the direction they were supposed to go. They would simply walk in circles. Yeah. And I think the same thing happens in our life when we don't have close friends that are headed in the right direction, whatever that may mean to you. For me, it's being a follower of Jesus, a faithful husband, like all of that. Yeah. You're going to end up finding yourself walking in circles and going nowhere. And like I know that firsthand of like, man, the friends I kept, the friends I was around, that's who you become. You know, my grandmama would say all kinds of sayings like, you hang with trash, you're going to start to stink. Yeah. You want to, you want to be an eagle one day? Well, if you hang with turkeys, you're going to act like a turkey. I'm like, what's wrong with turkeys? You know what I'm saying? Like, but like,
they get eaten. That's
but why? Because bad company corrupts good character. And it's the idea that, man, when you get around people, they're going to affect you for the negative easier than you're going to affect them for the positive, because your natural tendency is to do what you want, do what you feel, and you don't want to have boundaries in your life. And that leads you to a place that's actually really destructive. So it's much easier for you to go back to your sinful nature than somebody who doesn't have Jesus to act like they have Jesus. Right. So like that's where I think it's really important to really evaluate, like, yo, who's speaking into your life? Yeah. You know, like, man, who are you? Like, I think about the times when I made some of the dumbest decisions in my life. It was one when I had no one. And the second thing is when I had the wrong one. When I had the wrong people, like, yo, what should I do about this? Oh, man, F it. Who cares? You should do it anyway. And then I'm like, yeah, you're right. You know, just kind of boosting the ego. Yeah. And then you do it, and it's like, yo, that sucked. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got a lot of trouble for that. You know what I mean? Like, let's throw the party in the field. Who cares? And it's like, and then the cops show up, you know? And it's like, yo, what am I doing? You know? And so like, there's been so many times where I've done stuff that was really probably uncharacteristic of me. Yeah. And I would say, like most people would probably say, even in that phase of my life, you would have thought I was the leader, but I was actually being led. Right. And I cared far more about what people thought than I would like to admit. So like out front, I carried myself as this confident dude. But really, I'm like, I'm so confident, but in the same respect, it's like, I really care about what you think, and I'm going to do what I have to do to make you like me.
You're under the influence of the wrong people.
Under the influence. That's literally right. So I think it's important to evaluate, you know, like when you see a healthy marriage, they are under the influence of other healthy marriages. Right. So it's a positive thing too. Yeah. Which would be a little bit different than the like drinking thing. You know what I'm saying? But totally, it's like, so it's for the positive and the negative. But like you show me a marriage that's struggling, I guarantee you, let me talk to your 5 closest friends, and there's one that is speaking something into your ear that's causing tension in your marriage.
And it doesn't necessarily even have to be friendships. It could be in-laws. It could be your own parents. And that could also be something, you know what I mean?
I think we talked about this, but I got to say it real quick. Yeah. When you get in fights with people, this is just a little free one. When you get in fights with like, you know, your spouse in particular, whoever you're engaged to, your boyfriend, girlfriend, please stop going to mom and daddy. I just got to say that. That's for somebody today. I don't know.
Somebody needed to hear it.
I don't know who that's for. But again, because I think we're so shaped by the people in our life. And I really believe that like your friendships do determine your future. So you got to figure out, okay, I'm not naive enough and arrogant enough to be like, no, nobody influences me. Yes, they do.
Someone does.
Someone does. Yep. Right? Culture does. Culture, the world. You're under the influence of like, this is what I'm supposed to like, value, look like, and act like. And all of us are living up to something, a standard of expectation set by somebody. So for me, if that's true, I want to live under the influence of Jesus. Now that sounds so weird to say, but I want to be influenced by somebody like worthy to follow.
Right.
And I think that him being the ultimate example, but then people who go, I'm living my life trying to look like him. Mm-hmm. And I think when you do that, what I found is the best influencers, if I had to give you that definition again, I think the best influencers are the reason and the way they get platforms really is because they add value to people's life.
Yeah, that's true.
They have understood that the ones who make it all about themselves, man, that's smoke and mirrors. It's going to fall. It's going to fail, right?
Yep.
Like the ones that like, oh, I'm the star, blah, blah, blah. You're not the star of the show.
Yep.
If you can figure out how to elevate other people and make their life better, people will follow you because they too have something in them that knows this is bigger than me and I want to help other people too.
Yeah.
And you're doing good in the world. So like, I think of the girl, shout out, Live Love Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Rowe. Taylor, I don't know.
It starts with an R.
It is.
Taylor.
I think it's Taylor Rowe. I've Venmoed her a bunch for like, different stuff. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, shout out to her. But like, I think that's a great example of somebody like take the faith thing out of it. Though I know she's a believer. Like take that out of the equation. Somebody who's going, I'm going to use my influence to help other people. It's like, yo, that's the type of person I want to be. So I want to figure out how do I add value in the earth? Yeah. How do I use my influence? It's the reason we're doing this podcast right now. We ain't got it all figured out, but it's like, hey, let's figure out how to add value in ways that maybe don't make a platform.
Yeah.
But we can have honest conversation about that's like unedited and uncut and unprepared to have. You know what I mean? So
I feel like when it comes to talking about being an influencer and really kind of evaluating those people that you're letting influence you in your lives, I feel like people might be watching or listening to this thinking, okay, well, I know that I need to remove XYZ from my life, whether it be a person, whether it be a show they're watching or something that they're doing. What tangible steps do you think they can take to like kind of kick out that influence?
I had this conversation with a 17-year-old guy after I got done preaching at church.
Okay.
Same question. He was like, hey, I recently gave my life to Christ. I've been smoking and drinking and going down the wrong path for a little while. And I have this reputation now of being that guy. Mm-hmm. I don't want to like lose all my friends, but I also don't want to do what they do. Yeah. And that's kind of why we're friends. Hard reality is you're probably going to lose them. Yeah. Or most of them. That's the hardest thing to come to grips with. If you think you can please everybody and still do the things that like God's made you to do, you're fooling yourself, right? Yeah. So like with the conversation I had with him, I hope inspires somebody else today. I think for like an example like that, where like let's say your friends aren't the greatest examples, I think you have an honest conversation. It takes courage, it takes boldness, but go, hey, listen, I'm gonna be honest. I've started thinking about, and this is what I encouraged him, think about who you want to be 5 years from now, 15 years from now. And if you're not headed in that direction, I think you have an honest conversation with the people around you. If you're so close, good friends.
Right.
Hey, listen, y'all, I'll be honest with you. I've been thinking about what I want to do with my life and where I want to go. And I don't think I'm on the right path. And I recently decided, you know what? I think it's time for me to actually follow Jesus and God's plan for my life. And listen, I love you guys. I'm not going to judge you, nothing like that. But when you guys do these things, I can't be a part of that anymore. Yeah. And so I love to hang out with you. But when I'm around, would y'all respect me and my boundaries I need to set that makes me healthy to not do that around me? And if you guys want to do it, that's on you. But like if you, this is where the influencer comes in, like if you feel empty too, like I feel empty, why don't we do this together? Yeah. Like why don't we pick a different path together? Because I think we'll be stronger if we do it together, and I'm not the only one. Yeah. So it's like, how do you take something where you've been influenced and flip it? Mm-hmm. That's so good. I think it's through a conversation. I think it's just inviting some of those. And here's the deal. If they're like, yeah, whatever, bro. They weren't your friends anyway. Right. You were friends by proximity because you had something in common, and it was unhealthy. Yeah. So it's like, if they're a real friend, like the friendship should run deeper than smoking weed together. Yeah. The friendship should run deeper than partying out on Friday night on Broadway together. And if it doesn't, they're not your friend, they're your fan.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between a fan and a follower.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's
that's a good book, by the way.
Yeah.
Not a fan. Have you ever read that?
That's
That's
Kyle
a good one.
Idleman. Yeah, I remember that. But there's a difference in that of like somebody's your fan and it's cheering you on. Yeah, but like are they really going to be there with you when it counts?
Yeah.
And so I think you got to have that conversation. I mean, I remember having to have that conversation with people in my family of like, hey, that's not who I am anymore. And I'm going to ask that, like, that's not even how, I don't want you referring to me that way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to change, help me change.
Totally.
Whether you agree with it or not, if you love me enough, will you help me change too? You know what I mean?
And if they, like you said, if they love you enough, they will, because this really hits home for me, that conversation you have with that kid, because my little brother struggled with alcohol addiction.
Yeah.
And we kind of went through this phase of life where it's like, we go home, we hang out, we'll all have a drink by the beach or do whatever. And there was a moment where we're like, if he's coming, we can't.
Right.
We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to sneak it. We're not going to have it in the house.
Right.
Like it's just not going to be there. And that was a whole, we all came to that conclusion, and because we wanted the best for him.
Right.
Which ended up making things way more less dramatic. Everything was always fun. And it was just like, it really helped all of us in the end.
Yeah. And what y'all did there too in that moment, I think is so huge and is a biblical principle when Jesus says, in Philippians chapter 2, he talks about selfish ambition and vain conceit.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, like, we want what we want when we want it. Mm-hmm. And it says, but in humility, consider others better than yourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't value yourself above other people. That's y'all literally living out that verse of like, hey, like, yeah, selfishly, maybe we do want to have a drink by the beach. That's cool. Yeah. But because we value him and we want to see him get to where he needs to go and we love him, we'll die to that.
Yeah.
Because we don't need that anyway. Like,
exactly.
I'm not relying on that. And if you're relying on it, then you probably don't need to do it anyway.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's a whole other.
Maybe we need to have that conversation.
You're going to find out real quick. Like, do you really, like, was this just a thing we did one time? Or is it like, oh, no, I got to have this to have a good time.
Right.
So it's cool to hear that, like, you guys did that. And then it's like, it actually ended up being better.
Like 1,000%
that's
better.
Awesome. That's great.
Less family drama. There's not as much, It's great.
I think I told him the story too. Like, when I was talking to that 17-year-old, I told him, one of my best friend, he was my best man, I was his best man. Our relationship began kind of crazy, but we ended up like kind of doing a lot of firsts together. Like we took our first little trip without parents together, drinking in a car all the way to Kentucky Kingdom, getting drunk at Kentucky Kingdom and riding roller coasters and throwing up, like just like dumb stuff that teenagers do that we shouldn't have been doing. Right. But we kind of like partied together, and like I actually exposed him to a lot of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget when I went off to college and I became a Christian, like 3 or 4 days into college, I came back home, and I think it was like Thanksgiving break or fall break maybe. I think it was fall break. And he came over. And of course, his expectation is like, yo, what we doing this Friday night? Mm-hmm. And I remember setting him down and be like, hey, man, I actually don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, right now in this season, man, like I'm not drinking. He's like, what's gotten into you, bro? Why are you so freaking weird?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not weird. Like, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. I'm not going to do that. I sat there and shared my testimony. I didn't know any scripture. I was like a Christian for less than 2 months.
Yeah.
And it's like I led my best friend to Jesus in that moment because he saw the life change that happened in me.
Right.
And I think sometimes we complicate the idea of influencer to like, you got to have a pedigree. You got to have all the answers. You got to have all of this out there before you can make a positive impact on somebody's life. And, sometimes, especially in the faith, it's like when someone who knows you the best and loves you the most sees a change in you, it sparks something in them to be like, yo, I know you.
Yeah.
Like, you've changed. How is that possible? You know what I'm saying?
I want in on that. What is it?
Give me some of that. What you smoking, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they're, and it's like, you're under the influence of something. What is it? And it's like, I'm under the influence of the Holy Spirit.
Jesus.
Now let's go. Right. You know what I'm saying? But I'm serious. I think that you can have that impact. And that was the conversation I had with a 17-year-old. And I was like watching the light bulbs come off. And I'm like, imagine, bro, all those friends that you smoke weed with, what if they ended up coming to Jesus because of you? And my guy just got teary-eyed.
Yeah.
I'm like, dog, you can have that type of influence if you'll use it. And he's like, okay. And I'd say that to anybody.
Literally.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's not about your age. It's not about even all the answers and knowledge. Like, yo, I think God's given you what you need right now to be an influencer to him. Of course, you got to grow. Of course, you got to learn. That's why you follow people worthy of following.
And I think that's so huge, too, taking someone who feels like they literally have no real purpose.
Right.
And showing them that It doesn't matter what happened yesterday or last week or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right now you can flip that switch and become that influencer to so many people around you.
Like from this day forward.
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about yesterday, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Talking about like, yo, you may have been influenced negatively up until this point. You may be doing stupid crap.
Yeah.
But that's the good news. It's like his mercies are new every morning. Mm-hmm. 2 promises in that. 1, his mercies are new every morning.
Yeah.
It's another promise of like, you're going to need new mercies every morning.
Every morning, yeah.
You know, it's like he knows you're going to mess up. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like, hey, listen, you can go from this day forward. I'm going to choose to follow the right people.
Yeah.
I'm going to surround myself with the right people. And then I'm going to use whatever God has given me, whatever I have, to be a positive influence to other people. And it may start small. It may be like, hey, I'm going to find a way to just be an encourager to everybody that's close to me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm not going to speak negatively about people. I'm not going to gossip. I'm going to just choose to honor everyone. Mm-hmm. And I'd say that, like, I think a step to becoming an influencer that people want to follow, not because you're trying to build your own platform, but because you're trying to point people to Jesus, to figuring out their purpose in life. Man, I think that really starts with honoring people.
Right.
And it's like, well, some people aren't worthy of honor. Yeah, but are you an honorable person? Mm-hmm. I'm going to choose to honor. I'm going to choose to respect you in private. I'm going to choose to speak well of you in public. And I'm going to commit to that. And I'm telling you, honor will open the door for you like nothing else will.
Totally. Yeah. Man, that's seriously so good. Now, I'm going to kind of flip this into what we started talking about earlier. One small little tangible thing people can be to be an influencer when it comes to Easter. I feel like this is such an easy thing.
What? Well, I mean, invite people.
Well, that's the
T-ball. Yeah, let's go.
There you go.
Hey.
Which, by the way, wait, can we
Speaking
talk
of
about
T-ball,
that?
we got to talk about it real quick. We're going to get to inviting people to Easter.
This is awesome.
You are looking at the head coach of the Gallatin Yard Goats. Let's
Yard
go.
Goats?
The Yard Goats. Yeah.
Where do we get our T-shirts?
So
he's a T-ball coach, by the way.
I'm a T-ball coach, by the way. I'm super fired up about it. The most fired up I'm in life right now is because of T-ball.
Oh my gosh.
So the coaches like kind of decided to pick minor league teams.
Okay.
And
they're the best names.
Hartford. I think they're the Hartford Yard Goats.
Yeah.
There were I forget the first, like what city they were in. There was the Trash Pandas.
Trash Pandas, so good.
Yes.
The banana, what is that?
I don't remember.
Savannah Bananas.
Yeah, that's
a good one.
They're not a minor league team though. They're like a parody team.
Really?
They are kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball.
Okay.
But I feel you. Yeah, I feel you.
They're influencers.
They are, for sure. And you should follow them. It's amazing.
So
you
funny.
should go to a game if they're near you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm the head coach of the Gallatin Yard Goats.
I love that.
And,
Coach Pastor Kody.
That's right.
Wow. Adding a new title to the name.
CPK, let's go. California Pizza Kitchen, whatever. Doesn't matter. No,
CPK.
just Coach Kody works, which is funny because I used to like boss my friends around back in the day, like when I was a young athlete.
Did they call you Coach Kody?
And they would mock me and be like, all right, Coach Kody. And it's like, yeah, what's up now? I am Coach Kody.
They literally spoke that into existence for you.
That's right.
They planted that little seed.
Yeah, you prophesied it. That's right. Anyway, that's good. All right, Easter.
Let's talk about it.
People. I would just encourage you. And there's all kinds of statistics. I can make them up and sound really smart. But like study after study after study will show you that Easter is the one time of the year that when someone doesn't go to church, if you will ask them to go, they're extremely likely to come with you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, Easter is one of those things that's like, what are you celebrating? Easter and Christmas, it's like you're celebrating something with Jesus. So it's like, all right, I'll come to Easter with you. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about Easter, specifically with ours, and I pray and hope across the nation, is it's a day where we come together and we celebrate really the foundation of our faith and the whole reason why we're here.
Yeah.
And that's that Jesus rose from the grave. And so the gospel will be preached. And what God says is his word doesn't return void. And so there are people who don't know Jesus. And this is one of those weekends, like I hope every weekend is great to bring them to our church, but it's one of those weekends that you can play your part in making sure your friend hears the gospel.
Yeah.
And Romans, I think it's Romans chapter 10, Paul says, how will they hear if no one preaches to them?
Yeah.
How will they hear if no one will open their mouth and tell them? And so I think we have a responsibility to go, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make sure that the people in my life, whether it's coworkers, family, friends, whoever it is, I'm gonna make sure that through me somehow I'm getting them in a place where maybe I'm not even preaching the gospel, but my pastor is, and it's a place that I know I've encountered God, And it reminds me of that story, man. Like, and here's what I'd encourage you with: like, invite them, and then I'm gonna give a little like and do whatever it takes to get them there.
Yep.
It's one thing to extend an invitation, but go the extra mile and get them there.
Ask
and
them again.
And pick them up, promise them lunch. I don't know, do something.
Yeah.
Like,
there's going to be lots of eggs dropped.
That's right.
Candy.
Yeah,
We'll
for sure.
Them some
Get
candy.
them there. And by the way, that's why we do the egg drop.
Yeah.
Like you're going to see promotions all about this egg drop. Do we really care about the egg drop?
No.
Well, no. I mean, no, we don't. Is it going to be fun? Yeah. Is there going to be food trucks? Yeah. Is there going to be an Easter bunny? Yeah. Is there going to be bounce houses? Yeah. Why? Because we'll do whatever it takes to get people in the right environment with the hope and goal of like, you know what? We're already here. We might as well go check out church. Right. And so it's like, it is something that's we're trying to attract people and pull people in. I'm not going to apologize for it.
No, you shouldn't.
And so I think an example in Scripture where you see people doing whatever it takes, it always brings me back to Mark chapter 2, where there's a guy who's paralyzed, stuck in his house. Jesus is in town, in the house preaching. They had heard about his miracles, that he was healing people. And so what happens? 4 friends, they go across town, they pick up their friend. They get to the house, it's full, they can't get in, and they don't stop. They're like, no, we're getting them to Jesus. And so what do? They get him on the roof, rip the roof off, drop him at the feet of Jesus. And what happened? They knew their friend needed new legs, and he got them. What they didn't know is that their friend needed forgiveness for their soul. Mm-hmm. And so I think sometimes in the way you influence people is like, I can see a need in their life. I know they need this. And what's cool about God is like God will meet that need, but then God will meet a need you don't even know they have yet.
Yeah, so true.
Because there's things on the inside of us that need work, that inside renovation that needs to happen. You know what I'm saying? So like I think that's where we have an opportunity and an obligation to use our influence to get people to Jesus.
100%. I was just thinking about this. I was like, be an influencer, bring your friends to church, invite somebody to church, and we'll make sure that they leave under the influence of Jesus.
Come on.
How about that?
There it is.
Hey! Mic drop.
Let's go.
No, but that's seriously so good. If you guys have any questions or anything you want to leave us in the comments, we'd be happy to answer them for you, but we hope to see you on Easter.
See you then.
Woo!
All right, cool.
My phone was blowing up.